Welcome to this very special edition of the KJ Masterclass Live, the show which ensures that you profit from your time spent here with experts, either through their industry insights, information, or simply learning from them. And today we have Traycee Mayer. She is a leadership expert, author, certified executive coach, and she helps leaders leverage their strengths of human connection to achieve explosive growth in their careers as well as those they lead. Welcome to the show, Traycee.
Thank you, AJ. It's a pleasure to be here. Looking forward to our chat today.
Absolutely, absolutely. Welcome to the show. Welcome to India in this online form. And I'm sure not just in India, but a lot of people across the globe will be benefiting from what we will be talking about. We'll talk about leadership and human connection, and that is what you are doing to help a lot of leaders. But first, to congratulate you for your book. It's been released today, The Leadership Contradiction. Help us understand what this book is all about, and then we'll move forward with our leadership and human connection questions.
Wonderful. Well, thank you for asking that, AJ. This book is based on 43 years of my experience in leadership and a hike I did 3 years ago where I suddenly realized that, life is a lot like hiking, and it's, you come across different paths and you have choices. Some look scary, some look very safe and bright lights. And we choose those choices. Sometimes we feel like we chose the wrong thing. And so I talk a lot about it in my book about the choices that we make and accepting those choices, having no regrets, moving forward in our lives. This is very applicable to our family life or, other ways that we lead people in our careers and at home. And it really was a revelation that no matter what choice we make, whatever path we take, that it was the perfect path for us. And that was my revelation on this hike 3 years ago. And last year decided to write a book about it, and it will be full of many ideas for leading with a different style of love and kindness, being a real human in this world that we have lost so much of, and connecting people truly with their own talents so that you can lead them to success. Yeah.
Absolutely, absolutely. So we'll come to the book a bit later on. First, about leadership and human connection. So in these present times, a lot of people are questioning leadership, about in the backdrop of the great resignation, quiet quitting, all this still on. So what is it that leaders now have to understand about connection? What is it that they come to you for? Because if they have not understood before, how can you be sure they will understand now? Are they really serious about it? What kind of leaders come to you? Is it that they have faltered before, or is it that they did not understand what's going on in their organization, what is going on in the minds of their employees, that they want to be themselves, they want better work-life balance for themselves? So I want to understand through you, what is this human connection that they need to learn about, that they can learn about, they did not learn about, or they need to learn more about at this stage?
Wonderful. That's a fabulous question, AJ. And what I will share with you is that 40 plus years ago, when I was, being taught, or I was emulating other leaders to be a senior leader at a very young age, it was all about being tough. It was about, if people aren't doing things right, that you set them straight immediately. It's that you criticize, you let them know what they're doing wrong. Focus on the bottom line. And if they're not meeting it, then they get written up. It's just all that stuff. And so I equate that in my book to the dark and light sides of leadership. And I think what we found, particularly in the last few years, and with 5 generations of humans being in the workforce, particularly the younger generations are just not putting up with it. They care about the way that they're treated at work. They care about their colleagues. And even though I'm a bit older, I've realized that I've had bosses that have made me feel not valued, not seen. That's where the quiet quitting comes in. That's where it's we start feeling like, why am I following this person? And we stay sometimes because we get paid a lot of money. But our hearts are crushed on a regular basis, and there is no human connection. So I firmly believe that if we make those connections with our employees or the people that we lead or people in our everyday life, that we can really see the unique people that they are. And from a leadership point of view, when we lead that way with really looking at that person for their uniqueness, we can have explosive success, because then you have a group of superstars, people that feel valued, people that feel like you see them for who they are. And if you've hired the right people, and we don't always do that, but if you've hired the right people and you set them free, and you let them know they're important and valuable to the organization, then there's no limit to what you're going to be able to achieve together. So you develop the individuals, you keep them as loyal and retain them as employees, but you also meet your bottom lines. So everybody wins.
Absolutely, absolutely. My personal understanding is that this quiet quitting is not just happening among employees, it is actually happening among some of the leadership itself, because they are doing the bare minimum that can help them just survive in their job. And because they do not have a boss, they can do that very easily. And the only one who can fire them is perhaps the board or the founder. And so you are focusing only on the number. So it's almost like a quiet quitting game that is happening at your end, but it is not coming out in the open. I want to understand from you, Traycee, is that when a new employee comes into the system, there is that orientation that happens. There is that onboarding that happens. What about leadership? Should we consider that the leadership is or the know all of everything, and that too in a new organization? Does it mean that one CEO shifting from one company culture to another knows everything, and from the very day itself will start creating so changes? So it is like expecting too much from them. How do we understand that a human connection that the CEO created somewhere else, suddenly that will be created in another company in a day or two? Because they also have a lot of pressure to meet the deadlines, to meet the revenue numbers, to meet the bottom line numbers. How do you see this? How does a CEO who was very good in the earlier company suddenly becomes bad in the new company? How do they leverage that power of human connection in a new place, that too at a very short span of time? Help us understand with your understanding of more than 40 years.
Thank you, AJ. Another wonderful question. I have so many examples. One that I'll pull from is 10, 15 years ago, I was asked to take over an organization. It was a very large venue, 300 employees full-time, another couple hundred employees during special events. And the general manager had been there for over 20 years. So kind of non-present, a lot of things just kind of went the way they went, and everybody was kind of walking around with, not passionate, doing the job, day to day. And of course, it affected their financial bottom line, and it affected large clients that had been lost. So I tell this story. It's not in my book per se, but I've told this story before. I came on board, and I knew what the numbers were. I knew the clients that were missing, but the first priority was to meet with the employees at every level, from an hourly employee who was graciously, cleaning our facility, to the senior leaders who were in charge of hundreds of employees and a large bottom line, and talked about who they are. What did they want from this experience? How does it fit within their personal life? I wanted my employees to not leave work feeling exhausted and like they hate their job. I wanted to make sure that they got to leave feeling healthy, feeling vibrant, and go to their families so that they could feel like they're contributing in all parts of their life. And that doesn't take a lot of time. It takes some one-on-one time. It takes, some group discussions where you value everybody's voice. And when we kind of all knew who had which talents, then we put them to work. We had goals that we were all going to attain together. And, and I also had a boss, of course. Even at senior leaderships, you usually have a boss, like you referenced, either a board of directors or you have a president of a company. And, I shared my plans with them as well, and what I needed for support. And then we just, kind of let it go. And we had fun. We had fun at work. We had fun doing our jobs once again. Within 1 year, we recouped the bottom line losses. We became closer as a work group, and we began enjoying what we were doing on a daily basis. So, that's one example. Others I've come across is just, senior leaders who are, maybe it's somebody in the C-suite, and they're frustrated because they keep losing employees. And they don't know why, and so when I coach them and I work with them as we go through the process, when I start talking to them about the relationship they have with their employees, do they do a regular one-on-one for 30 minutes or more, just checking in with their employees, finding out what they need? It's always, I'm too busy, or yeah, I have it scheduled, but we usually have to cancel because, things come up. I have to have a meeting with the chairman of the board. Well, we're doing the wrong things. I think that if you've been assigned to manage a business that's multi-million-dollar business, you got to have the courage to tell your chairman of the board or the president of the company, hey, I appreciate that you want to get some time with me, but I got to first focus on my first priority, which is the people that run this business, so that we could be successful. But let me circle back with you shortly. You've got to have that courage that you not just manage the people that are below you or beside you. You also manage the people that are above you. And so all of that takes time and attention, but it actually is less time to make a human connection and actually have a genuine conversation with someone, so that you can maximize their talents and bring everybody to the table.
Right, Traycee. So in terms of making human connection, how does a leader ensure that it is actually a human connection and then you are not creating sycophants? Because when you are the leader, there will be a lot of yes men around you, and they will never let you move beyond their area of control. How does a leader ensure that you are actually making good connections and not confining yourself amongst some yes men? Because that will again not going to work. It is happening in a lot of organizations. That is why the real message is not passing across, and that is what happens when you have a lot of yes men around.
Yeah. So yeah, I know that happens, and I've seen it happen. I've had it in my own organization. I think that it's going to start from the leader. Are we genuinely interested in knowing who that person is? Now, it doesn't mean that it's going to work with everyone. If we have the right person in the right job, then we have somewhere to begin with. If it's the wrong employee, then you need to take steps to counsel them, coach them, and potentially let them go and go to another industry. So if we have the right people in the right job, it's amazing what personal time can take and how it can lift us up. And I'm talking about, taking a walk for 10 minutes. I used to do something at one of my very large hotels. I called it the 2 o'clock walk. So it wasn't just for the individual, but that's a time where some of my teams could get together, and if they wanted to take a quick walk, it's one thing. It's getting that that downfall we all have in the afternoon. Too much caffeine or too much sugar during the day, but we just take a walk around the block and talk and chat, and it's just this feeling of inclusion, a feeling of that their voice matters, a feeling of I have time to listen to them. And there is a real separation at that point, AJ, where that you can't have yes men because they don't want to do that stuff. They're not interested in taking a silly walk, or they're not interested in having coffee with their colleagues. It just becomes something they can't fake, because genuine people who want genuine connections, who want to really like their job and make the most out of it, are starting to feel that if it's the right leader who really cares about their voice and they're part of the company, because everybody does matter, then you'll get to see the difference. It'll start shining through bright and clear. And that there'll be that separation, so you can see the ones who are really there for the real reasons. Yeah.
Right, right. Maybe they do it because, yes men can help them during town hall meetings, there they can make the numbers for them. It's always good to get all those claps and all those yeses about whatever good or bad plans you make or announce. Be that as it may, let's come to the book about the leadership contradiction. Help us understand what this book is all about. Who is this book for? Is it about leaders? Is it about the employees? Who should read this? And you talk about, choosing a path of love and kindness. Who should show more kindness, the leader or the employees?
Oh, wow. That's a fabulous question. So the leadership contradiction, I wrote within the last year, and today it's being released on Amazon and Barnes and Noble, and I'm just really excited about it. The leadership contradiction is about what we were taught for decades about how to be a leader. Again, kind of going back to a few things I said at the beginning, being tough, being strong, being a boss, and making sure that you light a fire under your team, because if they're not performing. But what it really ends up being is a lack of human connection. And that's the contradiction, because people don't want to follow leaders that are not nice. I don't want to use a profane word, but they're being that awful leader that we can come across, where people are like, boy, that person is a jerk, and they start pulling away. And the leadership contradiction is that leaders disqualify themselves from their behaviors. And there's a whole list of contradictions. Just not, they think they're focusing on the work or the bottom line, but they're not. They're too invested in their own egos. They're too invested in their time off, or their, networking with cocktails and focusing on that, and not being able to come to work the next day, or, they're focused on things that don't bring health and wellness to the workplace. And so there is no human connection. So that's really a big part of that. The leadership contradiction book is for leaders, and it's also for employees. It's both. I've gotten feedback from both. I've had a lot of people preview the reading of the book, and have had some great reviews, because it gives ideas of how employees really should be treated, and that they can feel confident that if they need time with their boss to be heard so that they can do their job, then that should be the case. There are a lot of valuable insights and things that can be done today or tomorrow from an employee's point of view or a leader's point of view, to raise the bar on the connection and the success of that business. Because at the end of the day, that love and kindness the last part of your question, is really just about human kindness. There's been some misbehaviors by leaders in the past that have given that a bad name. And there's a chapter in my book called "Love is Not a Four-Letter Word." We made it bad. We made it sexual, and it shouldn't be. It's a human kind of love. It's a human kindness that should be available for all of us. Every person in this world has unique attributes that they bring to a workplace. And again, if they're in the right place, I've got some ideas in the book of how, a leader or an employee can kind of come together and find simple ways to show up better. Yeah.
Absolutely. Absolutely. There is much to learn about all these things, leadership and human connection and all things associated with that from you, Traycee, with so many years of experience. So a lot of people who'd like to know more from you, more about you, and connect also in a professional capacity. What is the best way for them to do so?
Yeah, absolutely. So I can be reached directly at Traycee, email Traycee at beuleadership.com, BEYOU leadership.com, and Traycee with 2 E's. I'm also on that website. Anybody, the first 3 people who want to go on there and book a 30-minute consultation with me, I'm going to give away 3 copies of my book. So go grab a spot so we can do a consultation. We can talk more, and I will send you a free copy of my book. And and if you just want to find out about the Leadership Contradiction, you can go to theleadershipcontradiction.com, and there's a link in there of how to buy the book.
Absolutely. Absolutely. With this, it's a wrap on this very special edition of the KJ Masterclass Live. Thank you so much indeed for joining us.
Thank you, AJ. It's been a pleasure.